All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone. This is the October 2022 San Joaquin Valley REAP, that's Regional Early Action Program webinar. Today's topic is on implementing ADUs in the San Joaquin Valley. And with me in managing the Valley-wide REAP program is Robert Phipps from Fresno COG. Robert, can you say hi?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending.
Okay, before we get started, a couple of house rules. This presentation will be approximately 40 minutes with time for questions and answers afterwards. If you have a question, you could use your raise hand function. You could use the question and answer function, or you could use the chat function. Robert and I will both be monitoring those throughout the webinar. This should take about 1 hour in total time. APA credit is available. The number is on your screen there on the flyer, and the information shown, there'll be a PowerPoint shown today and a lot of other documents that our consultants will tell you about, but the PowerPoint for today and the recording of the webinar will be posted to the SJV REAP website within a couple days. Then probably tomorrow, the next day, you should get a post webinar evaluation. If you don't mind filling that out for us as well, that would be great. Yes, Randy. Randy's with our REAP team as well, which is why I'm allowing him to chime in right now. Randy? Okay. Let's go ahead and get started then with our speakers today are Monique Emerson and Jenna Chilagarian. They're both with Precision Engineering, and they have been for the past year now working on this valley-wide REAP platform that jurisdictions can use. It's a full service platform. I'm going to let them tell you all about it. So before we start, if they don't mind just introducing themselves, and they can take it away from here. Go ahead, you two.
Hi, I'm Monique Emerson. I'm a planner here at Precision Civil Engineering.
Can you just introduce me?
And this is Jenna here. Sorry, we have some technical. So we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves in our presentation as well. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you guys can see our presentation.
If you have to have Michael on share.
While you're doing that, I'm going to let Randy ask his question. Well, I was. Okay, go ahead, Randy.
No need. I'm just trying to get my Zoom system up.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, everyone. Today, we're excited to present to you ADUs 201, implementing ADUs in the San Joaquin Valley. This has been prepared for the San Joaquin Valley Regional Early Action Planning Program and is part of the Housing Workshop Series. And the focus of today's presentation is to introduce the tools created to help Valley cities and counties implement a complete ADU program. So again, some introductions. So again, my name is Monique Emerson, and I'm the Vice President of Planning at Precision Civil Engineering. And with me, I have Jenna Chilagarian. She's a Senior Associate Planner here at Precision Civil Engineering. So as I mentioned before, the main purpose of this presentation is to introduce various implementation tools we have developed to assist with ADU program implementation. And all of these tools can be found in this document that's titled Introducing the San Joaquin Valley Wide ADU Program. Sorry, the document's a local agency's guide to implementing ADUs in the San Joaquin Valley. And this document, again, is prepared for the San Joaquin Valley REAP program. It's our program guide. It's prepared for Valley cities and counties. And it provides guidance, considerations, templates, and examples for ADU implementation. And this guide will be available soon on the REAP ADU website. And I also want to just thank various authors and contributors to this guide and all of these tools, which include all of our planning staff here at Precision Civil Engineering, as well as our project engineer and our project architect. So listed here are all the tools available, and many of these documents will be available in both Word and PDF. So they'll be easy to modify and they can be customized. We'll go into more detail on each of these tools as part of this presentation. We just wanted to introduce them here. So as I mentioned before, this presentation will focus on implementation, but if you're interested in ADU basics, you can access previous presentations on that San Joaquin Valley REAP ADU website. So available on the website are ADUs 101, which includes ADU basics. It goes over regulating ADUs, as well as touching on implementation and ADU programs in action. Also available on the website is another presentation we did for the San Joaquin Valley Policy Conference. It again includes basics and goes into a little bit more detail and includes a case study. So here's a quick overview of what we'll be discussing today. Jenna will discuss the contents of this agency implementation guide that I mentioned, and she's going to be discussing defining your role in ADU development, supporting ADU development in your jurisdiction. And as part of that, there's 3 components, which includes updating your ADU ordinance, developing pre-approved plans, and implementing a complete ADU program. After that, I'm going to go into detail about the technical tools that we've developed. And then next, I'm going to discuss lessons learned, followed by next steps, and then we'll conclude with Q&A. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jenna to discuss defining your role in ADU development.
Great, thank you, Monique. So I'm going to kick things off with defining your role in ADU development. So the information that I'll be covering in this section of the presentation is included in the guide. So we're trying to give you kind of an overview of the guide. And so when you see the guide, it'll be familiar information to you. So the purpose of this section is really to help set the stage. So I'm going to start with the ADU development process, then go into barriers to ADU development, and then finish up with overcoming those barriers. So next slide, please. Okay, so first let's go over the ADU development process. So we think agencies can play an important role in guiding homeowners through this process, but it's important to understand that this is a homeowner initiated process. So homeowners need to be willing and able to navigate the process in order to be successful. And just so an overview of the kind of different phases that come within this process. So you have the design phase, permitting, and then building. So many of you are probably familiar with the permitting side of things. So I'm just going to quickly cover the other kind of two phases. So in the design phase, it's the homeowner who is, or their design expert who are deciphering the code and regulations. They're the ones who are hiring the design expert. The design expert's probably the one who is drafting the building plan set, preparing the application, and then obviously the payment of fees. And then you have the permitting phase, which, most local agencies are the ones, accepting the application, reviewing, issuing corrections if applicable, and then approval and conditions, things like impact fees and deed restrictions. And then finally, you have the building phase, which is when the homeowner then again is kind of at the forefront of this, securing financing, hiring contractors, constructing the ADU that happens here, and then finally inspection. So what's important here on this slide is the barriers to ADU development is, so on top of understanding the process, it's also important to understand that there are barriers, and these can be grouped into land use, regulatory, and financial challenges to bringing ADU development to scale. So in the first bucket, we have land use. So this can include local opposition, property size, the layout, the foundation, utilities, especially things like sewer and water and electricity, privacy concerns and use. The second bucket is regulatory. So these should sound familiar, but things like permitting and review, occupancy, off-street parking, setbacks, et cetera, the things that are included in your development code. And the third bucket is financial barriers. So these are things like hard and soft costs, construction loans, renovation loans, loan eligibility and value, and appraising. And important here is that ADUs are not typical, so they can be more difficult to get financed. So by understanding some of the barriers, we can start to identify some tools and ways to solve or overcome these barriers. So we believe that agencies can play an important role in supporting homeowners through the process, and we've identified some ways here for each bucket. So under land use, things like educational marketing, targeting specific neighborhoods. So City of Clovis is a really good example. They saw a need in infill lots in their Old Town area. Technical assistance tools and guidance documents can really help break through those barriers for land use. Under regulatory, a lot of the regulatory changes or challenges have been kind of led by the state and with the ADU law, but some other things to think about are having interim guidelines on your website, updating your ordinance, emphasizing those by right opportunities, so those statewide exemption ADUs, and then offering opportunities for streamlined permitting. And the last bucket here is the financial, so reducing or eliminating impact fees that are controlled by the city or agency, offering pre-approved plans, which can help cut thousands of dollars for homeowners, providing info on tailored lending products, and then also some agencies are offering subsidized financing. So over the past year, taking these types of barriers and opportunities that we have identified, we've been developing a suite of tools for local agencies to help overcome these barriers and help support homeowners in their journey to implementing ADUs. So within our guide, we have 3 pathways that we've identified. We have update your ADU ordinance, develop pre-approved plans, and implement an ADU program. So I will be going through each of these sections that are included in our guide to give you kind of an overview of the content that you can expect to see. And then later in this presentation, Bonique will be walking us through the different suite of tools that we've created. So the first section in our guide is the first pathway that we've identified, and that's to update your ADU ordinance. And within this section, we have 3 subsections with more content and guidance. So the first is complying with state ADU law, and then we have the path to updating your ADU ordinance. And then we have this extensive guide that takes over several pages of our guide, and it's the do's, don'ts, and how-tos to updating your ADU ordinance. And we've provided several tools, which again, Bonique will cover later in this presentation. So I'm going to go through each of these subsections to give you an idea of the content you can expect to see. So in terms of complying with state law, so we all know the state has adopted several regulatory changes to streamline the ADU permitting processes and provide more flexibility in ADU development. There were 2 new bills passed recently, and we have incorporated those into our ordinance template. So some items or resources we want to point you toward as you embark on this journey to updating your ordinance is starting with the government code where these regulatory changes are codified. So we have section 65852.2, which is specific to ADUs. And then we have 65852.22, which is specific to JDUs. Secondly, we'd like to point you to the California HCD ADU handbook, which has been very helpful for a lot of agencies over the past couple of years. And we're excited to see that they have a July 2022 update. So if you haven't looked at that, we highly recommend taking a look. They've clarified a lot of frequently asked questions in that document. Another HCD resource is the ADU ordinance review letters and responses. So as you may know, agencies send their ADU ordinances to HCD for review, and HCD reviews them and provides letters. And those letters are actually uploaded to their website. And it's very helpful to review those letters because you can see how HCD is interpreting state law. And so in developing our ADU ordinance template for you all, we heavily relied on the handbook as well as HCD's interpretation in those letters to make sure that the ordinance is compliant with state law. And then a couple of REAP resources. The first one here is the San Joaquin Valley Guide to Recent California Housing Laws. This was just released this month, I believe, and it's on the REAP website already. And they have an overview of all recent housing laws, and they have a whole section dedicated to ADUs. So take a look at that. And lastly, the reason why we're all here today, we are releasing our local agencies guide to implementing ADUs in the San Joaquin Valley. And again, we have that extensive section, the do's, don'ts, and how-tos. So please take a look at that. Next, new laws, now what? So although cities and counties are mandated to permit ADUs and JDUs, they are not required to adopt ADU ordinances. So here we have kind of a decision-making tree. So on the left, if the agency does not adopt an ADU ordinance, any ADU proposed would be subject only to standards contained in state law. If you do adopt an ADU ordinance on the right, you can impose different design and development standards that are in compliance with state law. And here it's important to note that an agency can choose to go beyond the minimum as required under state law. So state law is the minimum requirements for ADUs. And two things to point out here. First, historically, HCD provides formal review of your ADU ordinance once it's adopted, but in recent months, they've actually rolled out a preliminary review process. So this can take place before you adopt your ADU ordinance, and we highly suggest taking advantage of that. So in our guide, we go a little bit further with some considerations for how to make your ordinance easier to understand for the reader, including homeowners and agency staff. So within this, we have a few recommendations. So obviously know the code, review the ADU law, the handbooks and guides that I previously mentioned. Secondly, if you don't have an ordinance in place currently, use a placeholder. So a lot of agencies draft interim guidelines or have FAQs on their website or available at front counter. And this can be useful for homeowners, to thumb through and something that they can kind of read through and helps the agency facilitate those conversations. The third here is opt for the early review. So as I mentioned, HCD has a preliminary review process now. And lastly, strategize implementation. How do you foresee your program rolling out? How can you support staff and applicants? So is this, an introduction workshop or study session? Do you have an application and checklist specific to ADUs? Are you offering your staff an internal policy and procedure? Do you have a how-to guide for homeowners, et cetera, et cetera? So we go through all of these details in our guide. And lastly, actually I have a couple more slides on this, but in our guide, the do's, don'ts, and how-tos, we spent a lot of time kind of combing through state law as well as those HCD review letters. And on the left here is a screenshot of what we include in our guide. It's a step-by-step checklist of what you should be including or can include in your guide, in your ordinance. And on the right is a screenshot of what our ADU ordinance template looks like. So the grayed out areas are the areas that you can customize. But basically when you get this guide and our ordinance template, we really suggest pairing these two documents together in conjunction because it's going to be very helpful and explain kind of the do's, don'ts, and how-tos as you go through your ADU ordinance development. And then lastly, for this section, this is not included explicitly in our guide, but something that we thought would be good to discuss here today with you all are some common mistakes to avoid. So in combing through HCD review letters, these are the things that we have flagged as something that comes up often for ADU ordinances. So missing references or limited definitions, we highly suggest utilizing the ADU definitions from state law. Size, height, and setback restrictions that do not meet state minimums, requiring discretionary review or public hearings. There's a new bill out that specifies or clarifies that language in state ADU law, requiring deed restrictions without referencing exemptions. So within the ADU state law, there are references to other government code sections that have exemptions. So paying attention to those. Having subjective design and architectural standards, so use objective language, having occupancy limitations or bedroom restrictions. This is getting into the weeds a little bit, but that is obviously could be seen as a constraint to familial status and things like that. So make sure you're not limiting bedroom restrictions or saying how many people should be living in an ADU. And then lastly, utility connections and fee requirements. There are statewide exemption ADUs that do not that there's kind of exemptions for. So pay attention to those things. And again, look at those letters on the website. So that wraps up the first section of our guide. The second section of our guide is developing pre-approved plans. So in this section, I'll cover San Joaquin Valley pre-reviewed plans that we've prepared for you all, and then designing your pre-approved program. So this is kind of an exciting thing. We have prepared a set of 4 pre-reviewed detached ADU plan sets that range in size from 375 square feet to 910 square feet. and they're prepared for use by local agencies in the Valley. So these plan sets include architectural sheets, structural sheets, electrical sheets, and then the Cal Green forms. The layouts include a 375 square foot studio, a 550 square foot 1 bedroom, and then 775 square feet and 910 square feet 2 bedrooms. And the styles available are the modern farmhouse, craftsman bungalow, and California ranch. So how does this work? So these have been pre-reviewed by a third party for compliance with the California Residential Code. They will still require further review by each agency just to ensure compliance with your local code. So you can request a full plan set. You can go to the San Joaquin Valley REAP website, and there is a technical assistance request, and you can indicate your interest in technical assistance and let Michael and Robert know that you want the plan sets. They can be provided as CAD files, and we also have technical assistance available on a first come, first served basis, so we can help you customize your plan sets for your agency. And then the last piece in the guide for section 2 is designing your own pre-approved program. So I know a lot of agencies are currently undergoing this step. And so we all know that pre-approved plans have the potential to save homeowners thousands of dollars and also local agencies hours of staff time in terms of review. And so in determining your approach to designing your pre-approved program, we have some considerations that we outlined in the guide. So I will not go very much into detail, but under hiring consultants, think about the range of design experts that you want to engage. Think about the extent of plan sets. So each agency has different requirements for their master plans. So make sure you spell that out clearly for your consultants. And then also indemnification. So are you indemnifying the design expert, the city, the county? Do you have a waiver? Do you have these indemnification language on your plan set? So a lot that goes into that as well. Under designing layouts, think about the location. Are these citywide or are they location specific? The types of ADUs that you'll be preparing pre-approved plans for. We've primarily seen detached only, but I know there's some agencies outside the Valley who are looking at garage conversion pre-approved plans. And so if you're interested in those kinds of things, I do have a running list of what I've seen other agencies do. So let us know. And then some other things, common lot sizes, thresholds in the residential code that would allow for structural exemptions, meaning you wouldn't have to get have structural calculations or engage a structural engineer. The statewide exemption ADUs, impact fee thresholds. So things like thinking about ADUs that are less than 500 square feet or less than 750 square feet. And then flexibility and accessibility. So, you know, having a roll-in shower, having an option for a studio versus 1 bedroom. So just trying to make it as flexible and accessible as possible. And then lastly, selecting designs. So what's common? What do you see in your community? Think about structural loads of design features. So like a tile roof may be heavier than other types of roofs and would require structural calculations. Think about cost-effective construction. So what is typical counter sizes? What is typical in terms of your local home builders? You know, what materials are available now and not costly? And then also producing some sort of design workbook that homeowners can look through as they're selecting their designs. And then lastly, to wrap it all up, in section 3 of our guide is where, you know, put it all together. So implementing your ADU program. And so in the guide, we go into a lot more detail, but we go into some more ways to supplement your overall program. So the first is, you know, creating a how-to guide for homeowners. So we have some suggestions here, like determining your audience, making sure you're interpreting regulations, having it technical but visual, providing tools and examples, and then making sure it's hyperlinked for easy access. Under technical assistance, designating a staff member or email address for ADUs, having some sort of web-based services, having educational materials at the front counter, and then checking with your consultant to see if there is on-call consulting availability if you have engaged a consultant. And then lastly, financial assistance and loans. So some cities have fee waivers, and there's some cities that have amnesty program to legalize illegal ADUs. And then also there's some grants and loans available, and that's a clickable link. And I'm not gonna jeopardize this PowerPoint presentation by clicking it, but there is some more information there for you when you do get this PDF. And so with that, I'm giving it back to Monique to walk us through all of the wonderful tools that we've created.
Thank you, Jenna. So as Jenna mentioned, I'm going to go through the technical assistance tools that we've created. So first tool is our ADU introduction presentation template. And this is a customizable ADU PowerPoint template for agency staff to use for council, board, or commission study sessions and workshops. And this is intended as an introduction PowerPoint and is ideally presented early in the process. So let me show you what that looks like. So this is the template. As you can see, it's customizable. We tried to provide as much information as possible within the document so that it's easy to use and there's not a lot of work that staff has to do. They just have to fill in the blanks. You can take out slides if depending on the type of workshop that you're presenting, but it's meant to be, an easy to use presentation template that you can just take and modify as needed. So next, I'm going to show you guys our ADU ordinance template. So this template has detailed instructions to help guide staff through the writing process. And this is a Word document. So let me show you what that looks like. So here's the ordinance template. As you can see, we provided some instructions and a little how-to at the bottom, which it just describes that this is a Word document, and the text in gray indicates fill-in areas. So I'll show you what it looks like. Actually, here's an overview. So this is just an outline of what the ordinance includes. And then this is what the fillable document looks like. Again, it's Word and it's meant to be clickable. In the gray area, you fill in. And along with that, in the gray area, there's a description to help guide you through the process. So it'll describe what you should include and when you should include it. So it's meant to be sort of a one-stop shop for you to work through. Again, all of the guidance is within the document, and things that are not grayed in, they're meant to be left. I mean, obviously it's your template. Your ordinance, you can remove and add things, but it's intended to make it simple for you to write your ADU ordinance. So let me close that. So next, I want to show you an interactive ADU ordinance template. So this interactive ADU ordinance template is a more user-friendly version of the Word document that I just showed you. And it's meant to help you get started thinking about what to include in your ordinance. So bear with me because the PDF click does not work as well. So let me just show you that really quickly. Here is what this interactive ADU ordinance template looks like. Again, there's instructions provided. And so this template is meant to be used in PDF. And it's there's pop-up instructions. So there's blue boxes that indicate fill in text areas, red boxes. If you click on those, they'll show you a notes icon to show you why you should include this individual section. And then there's little blue houses. And if you click on those icons, it tells you what additional regulations you can include in your ordinance. So I'll scroll down so you can see it's a fillable document. And there's, whenever we could include a drop down, we did. So article, chapter, section, again, drop down. And then if you click on these red boxes, it describes, it's similar to the Word document, it's just in a different format. It describes what you should include and what you should reference. And then it describes what you should put in the fillable boxes. So this is the whole, it's the same length as and same content as the Word document, just in a different format. So let me go back to the next tool. Oops. Sorry about that. Next tool is the staff report for PC, CC, or board presentation. And then also the presentation template, which is another PowerPoint presentation. So this is a customizable staff report and PowerPoint template for ordinance or program adoption. So let me click on the staff report so you can see what that looks like. So again, this is, it gives you the instructions at the beginning of the document. It gives you the content overview, and then it has the full staff report. And what we tried to do is provide sample language everywhere that we could. So we provided a sample executive summary, some background and analysis language, some images that you can use in your report if you want to, some summary language. We also included a CEQA finding. So this is a CEQA finding that you can use in most situations when you're bringing an ordinance to your council or your board. And then we also included some sample findings language. So we tried to do our best to cover everything. So it could be a one-stop shop for you again. So let me go back to the presentation. I won't show you guys the presentation template. It's just a similar PowerPoint presentation that you could utilize when you're bringing your ordinance to your board or your council. So next, I'm going to show you our ADU building permit application and checklist template. So this is a customizable permit application with submittal checklists intended to help agencies roll out a complete ADU program. So let me show you what that looks like. And again, it is a document that has some instructions on the first page, and then it includes the sample language that you can utilize. And this, if you have a pre-approved ADU program, then there's a simplified checklist that you can have. So you know, okay, if we have a pre-approved program, the permit doesn't need to include all of the plan sheets because we already have those. And it includes just standard information you would see in a building permit or a planning application. And this is helpful because with SB 2221, there's an indication that agencies are no longer going to be able to have sort of a zone clearance or planning admin approval for ADUs, that it should be ministerial and done with your building permit application. So this type of information is helpful so that planners can review the ADU permit as part of the building permit application. And so we've included, information related to fire sprinklers and solar panels, which come up as part of the permitting process. And we have some language in here to discuss when and if those are required. And then finally, as part of this document, which I think is really helpful, is a complete checklist. So I think this is really important to make sure that, your ADU program, when you roll it out, you're able to get a complete package from the public, and it's easy for them to understand what they need to submit. So that's that. Let me show you the next tool. So we've developed an ADU internal policy and procedure template, and this is a customizable internal policy and procedure, and it's meant to help guide staff and make for better and consistent implementation of an ADU program and issuance of ADU permits. So let me show you what that looks like. So again, same type of format, describes how to use the document, and it's just a standard template. And we've included, again, example language and procedures. So, submittal requirements, the processing, etc. So that's that. Let me show you the next tool. So the next tool, which is the big one, which is the standard ADU plans and elevations. So Jenna described this a little bit in her presentation, but I just kind of wanted to reiterate what's available. So the plans include these 4 different square footages, floor plans in 3 different styles. So for a total of 12 different options. And also included is we have 3D renderings available. And I'm going to show you what these, just quickly, I know we're getting close on time, show you what these look like. Now, this is what we're going to post on the website is just an example only. And as Jenna mentioned, the CAD files will be available upon request. But this is what the typical plan set looks like. So we've mixed some of the different plan sets. This is like the cover page for the 375 square foot plan. Here's what the floor plans look like. This is the example from the 775 square foot plan, and it is a 2-bedroom. This is a 2-bedroom, 1 bath. The different, so elevations, we're actually showing all 3 of the elevation types here. Just wanted to show you guys what these full plan sets look like. So let me go back and show you the next tool. Oh, one thing I wanted to say is, there was a reason why we chose these different floor plans. So for example, the 375 square foot studio would not be subject to school fees or impact fees. The 550 square foot also would not be subject to impact fees. The 775 square foot plan is a statewide exempt ADU if it has 4-foot setbacks in the side and rear. So those 3 plans could all be statewide ADU exempt, statewide exempt ADUs. And then the 910 square foot floor plan is a 2-bedroom, which is also a ministerial approval under the state law. So we were trying to make sure that these were going to be agencies got the best bang for their buck, that the public can utilize these and pick a plan that where they could be exempt from different fees and regulations. So this is just a further detail, one of the floor plans. This is actually the 375 square foot floor plan, the smallest floor plan. It's studio. Next, I wanted to just show you guys this ADU overview informational handout. And so this is intended to be a front counter handout for the general public to give them basic information on ADUs. Our ADU implementation guide checklist, which this is a summary of the staff implementation guide that Jenna went through in more detail, but it's condensed into a single page. Next, which I think is one of the most important components of an ADU program, is the ADU how-to guide template. And this is a customizable ADU how-to guide for agency staff to use and to create a public-facing document. And it's intended to be a complete A to Z guide. And so let me show you what that looks like. I'm sorry, this is actually just the public-facing. There it is. So this is actually in PowerPoint, so it's easy to edit. Sorry, there it is. So this is what it looks like. Again, it's customizable with the gray is where you would fill in the blanks. And we tried to include, a good outline so you wouldn't have to change too much. Goes through the step 1, step 2, step 3. Again, this is meant for the public to be an all-in-one, one-stop shop, fully customizable, goes through, the permitting process. And then here's where you drop in, if you did go with the ADU pre-approved plan program, you would drop in the various floor plans and elevations within this guide. So again, this is just a template, but I did want to also show you an example of a guide document that we've recently completed for the city of Kerman. So this is what it would look like done. Obviously, this is customized to the city with specific colors and different graphics, color, so it looks, cohesive. But this is what the final outcome could look like. And in this document, we provided, basically we tried to condense the zoning ordinance for ADUs and easy to use table. And then went through designing ADU, same thing, but this is just specific for the city of Kerman. So this is what it could look like. And we added this frequently asked questions section, which we think is really important. So that is the last tool. So I know we're running out of time, so let me go. Sorry for the whiplash here. I went to the wrong slide. So next, I'm going to move on to lessons learned. Just quickly wanted to talk about a few things that were learned in our process, putting this together and also assisting other agencies. So first, think about all the steps in the process and pieces in the puzzle. So other departments and agencies are involved in the process. Make sure you understand and amend the process from beginning to end. So from front counter inquiries, permitting through inspection. So just think about the whole process. Update your code. So rolling out a pre-approved program is great and will lower the barrier to entry, but you want to make sure that your code supports ADUs. And then don't forget about internal guidance documents as well as the public guidance. The biggest mistake I sometimes see in some jurisdictions is not putting standard procedures in writing. Putting procedures in writing ensures that staff implementing the program will understand the how and why and will allow the program to live on, even if there is staff turnover. And then 2 more lessons learned. As you guys know, state law is constantly changing. So you want to make sure that your code or implementation of the code is somewhat flexible. And we've designed our tools in Word and PowerPoint so that the documents can be easily changed by staff. And this is really important. Last lesson learned, get council or board input earlier. Yes, allowing ADUs is mandated by the state, but local agencies still have some control. Make sure elected officials are on board with where you want to go with your ADU program in advance. That's why we recommend a workshop early on in the process. So just quickly, next steps. So these materials will be available for download soon on the San Joaquin Valley REAP website. And then if you're interested in technical assistance, there's a link here as well where you can sign up for technical assistance. And then just quickly wanted to let you guys know what some examples of this technical assistance that will be available. So essentially what the intent of this assistance is to take the documents that we've prepared and just customize them for your local jurisdiction. So for example, for an ADU ordinance implementation, we can meet with staff, find out your needs, and then just tailor the ordinance to your needs. For the pre-approved plans, we can find out what your standard requirements are, make sure that we tailor the pre-approved plans to your agency. We can add, city, county logo, and make other modifications as needed. The guide document, obviously, that can be customized, and we can actually design a template with city colors and a theme that's specific to your agency. And then also we are available for public meetings or other implementation services, for example, modifying the permit application and checklist, and also providing training to planners for implementation. And that concludes our presentation. So we're here to answer questions if you have any. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you for covering everything. My question is, do you have concrete and 2x4s and drywall? Because that's about all you left out in terms of putting this together. So we appreciate it. This is a resource for the Valley through funded through Housing and Community Development through the REAP program. So we're very proud of the full service approach we're taking here. Precision engineering. Jenna and Bonique are available as part of this technical assistance. So all the resources will be up by the end of the week. The guide will be the master document, and then it will link to all the various tools that you saw throughout this presentation. So that should be up by the end of the week. And I did have a note, so thank you very much, and utilize it. It's paid for by the state of California, and this is a great program for the Valley. So please utilize it, cities out there and counties. Mike McLaughlin from HCD is on. He said he wanted to remind you guys that they are happy to provide technical assistance for specific questions or ordinances. However, they're not reviewing complete draft ordinances at this time. So thanks again, Mike from HCD. Any other questions? Let's open it up. Robert, can you help me with questions?
Yeah, so we had several questions related to the availability of the documents, some of which we've already answered. One of the first ones from Veronica Martinez, can we print the docs? Obviously, the answer to that is yes. If we didn't make that clear, you're free to use them. Also, several questions or points related to translation. We do not have the documents translated into any other languages at this time, but you are certainly free to do that. That was not part of the original scope. But they are all available. I believe we may want to put up the Dropbox link again for those who are anxious to get to the documents before the end of the week. But as Michael mentioned, we'll also have them available at the end of the week on the sjvcogs.org/REAP website. But I believe Precision has set up a Dropbox account right now if you want to get to those today. If we already have from Emily Bassnight, if we already have pre-approved plans, can we still obtain the plan sets mentioned in the workshop? Of course you can, by the means that we just discussed. In our jurisdiction, the majority of ADUs, this is from, from Teresa Rodriguez. In our jurisdiction, the majority of ADUs are garage conversions. Would love to see plans for that. Darn it. That one slipped through the cracks. Good point. Wish we had thought of that. And we will absolutely make a note. We do not have any of our plan samples that don't have the attached versions of those, but make a note of that. If there's time and funding left over, we may be able to make that happen. And yes, from Eduardo Gonzalez about language translation. Please do feel free to translate. That would absolutely be both acceptable and desirable. From Michael Tran, is there a breakdown on AB 2221? So I'm not sure if I'm not sure what that means by breakdown. Monique or Jenna?
So, yeah, so AB 2221, we don't have a breakdown of that because our intent here was just implementation, but we did reference it in our ADU ordinance template. And so one of the main things that it modified was this, the planning permit process for ADUs. And it makes it clear that it's intended to be, there's not supposed to be a separate planning or zone clearance process for ADUs. So we did incorporate that into our ADU ordinance template.
Okay, from Michelle Zumwalt, great job. I was wondering if the pre-approved drawings you developed will meet the California Residential Code that goes into effect in January 2023. I believe the answer to that is yes.
So these are based on the last building code, but if there's a possibility that we will be able to revise them to comply with the new building code. They were developed under the current building code.
All right, and from Ellen Moore, any guidance on implementing short-term rental restrictions for ADUs? For example, a restrictive covenant recorded on the property.
So that wasn't something that we specifically created a tool for. State law does allow you to restrict ADUs. That you don't have to allow short-term rentals, but that would be, a separate ordinance. As part of your ADU ordinance, when you rolled that out, you could include a provision that prohibited short-term rentals in these newly permitted ADUs.
Okay, and then from Mark Hamilton helpfully points out that the city of Clovis has a pre-approved ADU plan with a garage that I believe is publicly available. So that goes back to Teresa Rodriguez's point, looking for that resource. So we are certainly open to any other questions at this time. That's everything that's in the queue at the moment. Are there any other questions at this point? You can either put it in the Q&A, you can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand. Happy to answer any other questions.
Robert, Mike McLaughlin from HCD chimed in about that short-term rental. He said per state ADU law, rentals of ADU of less than 30 days are prohibited. So
there we go.
there's an inherent no there. Also wanted to, again, circle back real quick to the garage conversion precision. Jenna and Monique, on garage conversions is one of the reasons why we didn't include that is there's so many different variations, correct?
Yeah, there's so many different variations, you know, and finding because in some older communities, you probably have detached garages that were built at in different years. So for us, for this undertaking, we decided to not tackle the garage conversion ADU type, although, you know, other jurisdictions have done it. So we know that it's a possibility. I just don't know how, if it's can be easily transferred and used across the board.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, well, this was a lot of information. Maybe everyone's still a little overwhelmed, but you have everything you need, cities and counties, to implement an ADU plan in your community, including ongoing technical assistance for everything you saw in the workshop today. So we hope you take advantage of it and open this option up to some folks in your community who could benefit from it. Robert, do you have anything else?
No, we've gotten some really good feedback. I've got a comment from Mario Anaya. This is fantastic. Thank you for all your work in making these resources available. Thank you for the kind words. We sure hope that it is helpful and convenient for you. We've tried to make it that way. I think Michael has a resource before we let you all go to show you exactly all of the different deliverables under the REAP program that we've managed to produce so far, and there's still more to come. But we, you know, with the housing element season heating up, we know that there's going to be a lot of demand for resources, and so we want to make sure that that you're aware of what resources are available for you to simply go and pluck from the REAP website. Michael, you have a flyer on that, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm working on it, Robert, sorry.
Yeah, so we're gonna put up a flyer for you, show you
There you go.
what all of them are. We just mentioned the ADU. That's what you just sat through. Again, all of that will be available by the end of the week on our REAP website. And Precision has posted the Dropbox link. We had which Precision also mentioned, the guide to California housing laws. In the last 5 years, there have literally been dozens of new laws, as many of you are painfully aware. Very, very difficult to track. So we've encapsulated all those for you, given you kind of the most salient points about them, what their impacts are, and what you should be paying attention to. And then also the housing element data sets that many of you were looking for to get going on your housing elements as part of our regional, the Valley-wide comprehensive housing report. So that, which again, also available, all of this on sjvcogs.org/REAP. All of these programs, I mean, all of these documents and deliverables available there either right now or soon to be there by the end of this week. And so with that, Michael, thank you again, everyone, for attending. We really appreciate your patience and attendance. And please do let us know. We also have that were mentioned a couple of times, the technical assistance portal that you can go to and request technical assistance from us for the ADUs or any other number of housing related issues as you're developing your housing elements. And again, we do want to thank Jenna and Monique and the Precision team for all their hard work. They put a lot into this, and we've gotten a lot out of it. So thank you, ladies, very, very much for everything you've done. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great day.